Hey, we're Attention Trading, a full-service digital marketing agency that helps small and mid-sized businesses with their strategic marketing efforts. From websites, design, social media, and ads, our goal is to create marketing alignment for our clients. You may not realize it, but the majority of businesses lack a solid marketing strategy and plan. That's where we come in. On this show, we talk with business owners, founders, and marketers to uncover the secrets of their success when it comes to starting and scaling a business. This is the Attention Trading Podcast. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Attention Trading Podcast, where we talk with CEOs, owners, founders, and marketers about how they grow, scale, and operate their business. My name is Max Lowy. I'm here with my co-founder of Attention Trading, Steve Alves. Today, we have a very special guest joining us, Elodie Ferchaud, the co-founder of Boundless Life. Boundless Life is revolutionizing the way families travel, work, and live and connect by unlocking the freedom to explore the world together. Imagine a life where community, experiences, and local culture blend seamlessly, making every destination feel like home. Well, Boundless Life also offers innovative education programs that adapt to your family's journey, ensuring your children receive forward-thinking education no matter where you go. Elodie is not only a visionary in redefining family living, but also a leader in digital transformations. We're so excited to have you with us today. Elodie, welcome to the Attention Trading Podcast.
Thank you so much. What an introduction. That's exciting. We're setting the stage.
I try to set the bar. I try to give that background, that context that I think is needed.
Thank you.
That being said, I'd love for our listeners to learn a little bit about you, your background, and in your words, what Boundless is really all about.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be happy to share. So, Boundless Life has been a revolution for many families and for mine included. So I actually started with Boundless as a family. I was really keen to explore a different life for myself. I had been working in like big corp for 15 years. I was a bit tired of the wheel. And I wanted something different, for my daughters. I have 3 daughters who are 5, 7, and 9, but also for like me as a selfish mom. I just wanted to have a life who was more connected, more meaningful. And then when I joined my first cohort, that was back in April 2022 in Portugal, it was just a revolution. Like, it was really a different way for us to live. It was a different way for the girls to engage with their learning experience. And it just felt really right. It also felt so right to have to be more connected with families around us. Like when we were living back in Tokyo and London, we had always traveled around the world, but it always felt quite disconnected. Like people were living their own life, and there was this silo, and this is my life, and this is the path that I'm going for. Not so much interacting with each other. And I think that's what I discovered. The opportunity also to have a life where you're more connected with the people around you. And that opens up a lot of new horizons for you. Like, you're suddenly discovering so many different passion points. It's a richer life in general. So that's when I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna drop it all. And it was very serendipitous at that time. Boundless was at the very, very beginning. So I joined, took over marketing and sales, and it was more than 2 years ago. We're in a very, very different place now, with 6 locations now, more than 700 families who are crazy enough to follow us, and 1,200 kids who are also learning differently and really excited to come to school every day, which is what we're really aiming for.
It's amazing. And so, to give Steve a little backstory, me and my family, we've traveled quite a bit. And so yeah. I found Boundless. I connected with Elodie last year at some point. We've had a few conversations and, even had the opportunity to meet in Bali a few months ago.
Yes.
And tour, the Bali facility. And it was really, really special. I could just from the tour alone, I could see how special it was for the children and the whole educational piece of it all. So it's really, really cool. And to see kind of like the growth that you've had is amazing. I mean, from 2 years ago now to 700 families, it's wild growth realistically. And
It
so
is.
here's a question I have. So you joined a cohort from the beginning and you kind of fell in love with the program, fell in love with what it was all about. How do you go from, I guess, a community member to becoming a co-founder? Like because you're now head of marketing and sales. Like, I guess you had to sell, hey, I want to do this. I can do this for this kind of company.
Yeah, so originally I was at a transition point in my career. So I was starting my own company and I was doing consulting. And like many of our families joining a cohort, like so many families joining Boundless have like extremely interesting profile and they have like so many ideas and it's just so beautiful to see them wanting to build with us. So I was one of them. I was just like, you know what, there's so many ideas of what we could do better and this is what I'm offering. I went in as a consultant and I wanted to be a consultant at the beginning, and very quickly talking with Mauro, our CEO, I just realized that the company needed much more than that. The company just needed someone to get the things done, basically, not more ideas. But in a startup world, like we already have a beautiful vision of where we want to go. But at the end of the day, it's about the grind. It's about just getting things done. It's about testing, learning, failing, redoing. And that's what I decided to do. I was like, you don't need a consultant. You just don't need someone with more ideas. You have so many ideas. Now you need to put them in place. And I know how to do that. I have the drive, and we'll get going. So that's how I joined the sales and marketing team. At the time, the two functions were separate. We saw all the benefits of having a more integrated approach because it was all about the customer journey, and it was a little bit like it was not as smooth as it could be. So that was one of my main mission, making sure that the customer journey was as flawless as possible, because it's a big decision. So we need to remove as many friction as possible. It's a big decision to go and move around to the other side of the world with your family. And then just like a lot of dedication, showing the numbers. And then eventually it was a good time to be a late co-founder. So I was super excited to have even more skin in the game. That was a big, that was a big reward, definitely, after a few months. And now I'm excited to bring that growth a little bit further. So that's the story behind how it all happened.
That's great.
So are you actively traveling with them at all times, or do you kind of go back home and then go back out on the road again?
Yeah, so I've been homeless for 2 years. My daughters would, if you ask them the question where they're from, they will tell you I'm from the planet. I'm from the earth. Like that will be their answer to that question. We're traveling with 5 luggages. And that's what we've done for the past 2 years. We're coming back, obviously, to our home countries. So my partner is Swedish. I'm French. So currently I'm in Sweden visiting the family. We're heading to France afterwards. And then we'll go back on location in August. Now we have like the more extreme type of a digital nomad lifestyle. Many of our families also have like a kind of a hybrid. So many of our families have a home base for 6 months of the year. And that's where they have their home. That's where they might have like a base school. And they're choosing Boundless for 3 to 6 months. So it's kind of a program that also helps the kids to be, to connect with a different culture, to also have a more holistic learning experience, because the traditional system can be very, very academic. With Boundless, we're really focusing on the whole child, and we're really tapping into project-based learning as like the opportunity for them to like drive creative thinking, problem solving, collaboration skills. And that's what many families are realizing. Like the traditional system is good in many ways, but it's missing also some of those key like skill development that the kids will need in the future, right? With the development of like new technologies, kids don't really need to know how to answer like all the questions in the right way. What they need to learn is how to ask the right questions. It's a very, very different, like it's a paradigm shift. Like we're moving into a different world when you see everything that's happening out there. I think is that realization that many parents have.
Especially with the access of information at your fingertips, given the search engines and AI, where it's
Exactly.
less about remembering and retaining the information and more about critical thinking, right? And so I think that's the
Exactly.
biggest skill difference. Like it's not worth memorizing things when you can literally just go, I got you 1 second, and be able to get that information quickly. It's about being able to, theorize a solution and then be able to execute on that. That's great. That's a much different approach, especially in the US.
I think it's the same across the countries, to be honest. Like the education system takes a little bit of time to adjust. What we're trying to do is to go a little bit faster. We're smaller, it's micro schools. So we can also like test and learn on new approaches. So for instance, from this September, we'll start adding like AI powered math curriculum into our classrooms so that really we can tailor exactly what is needed for every child, because the problem of the traditional education is also that you're batching, right? So your 7-year-old, that's what you need to know. Like, really? Like, what if you're a little bit behind on that topic? And what if you're well beyond on that topic either? Do you still need to stay within that bracket? Like, it's realizing that every child is unique and different and that they need a tailored approach. We need to come where they at in terms of level. So the classrooms are smaller and the approach is a bit more alternative to really tap into their potential as much as possible.
Yeah, it makes sense. Super interesting. As far as I'd love to hear your point of view of like maybe any common misconceptions that people might have towards world schooling, or programs such as yours, because I think there is, a lot of fear because it is not the traditional way of schooling. It's very different, and if you haven't experienced it yourself, it can definitely be a little scary. So, any kind of misconceptions that like you guys are speaking to on a regular basis?
Yeah, for sure. I think first of all, there is this big fear that the kids will be like extremely free during the whole day and doing whatever they want and spending a lot of time on screens or whatnot. So with Boundless, what we're designing is just it's a program. Like there is a structure to the day. There is just a lot more flexibility on how it's implemented in the classroom. And also when you run a project, then it's not everyone running it the same way. Like we help the kids to tap into their passion points when we're running the program. But there is it's not completely free. There is a starting point, there is an end point. Now we do focus a lot more on the process versus on the end point versus a traditional system. So we really teach the kids on growth mindset and how to approach problem, how to manage their stress level, what's happening if you block, like how do you, and so we talk a lot more about this in the classroom, but that's the number one misconception, I think. The second one and the big scare is what's happening next. Like, what am I going to do with my kids afterwards, after Boundless? Like, can I go back into the traditional system? Now there is, of course, we're not going to be able to match exactly like all the programs of the world. Like this is impossible for us, to match everyone's program. However, the kids will keep on learning, and more importantly, they will learn how to learn. I think that's what I've seen with my daughters personally. Again, it's not just about remembering, like Steve was saying. It's really about learning to love learning or relearning, because most of the kids have that in them. They are like genuinely curious about the world, and we're trying to just keep that alive, because at the end of the day, as adults, you both know it. I'm sure that like 10 years ago you were doing a completely different job. I had to keep on learning. I had like marketing and sales has been changing so much. That's what we want to teach the kids as well, is that there is this love for learning that we will cultivate as we grow older. And yes, they might not know exactly the same when they go back in their classroom if they decide to. However, they will be able to learn even faster, and they might know some things that the others don't like as well. So they will just have had like a slightly different learning path. But at the end of the day, the skills that we're learning in terms of agility and flexibility will just help them to readjust to any kind of environment, short term and long term. That's really the intention. I think those are the biggest one. And then, yeah, often it's also the parents who are like scared for their kids, but they're more scared about themselves. It's a big change. So often the parents will be like, oh, I'm worried about my kids. But what it means really is, am I ready to make that big step? And what we're trying to reassure the families is that it is scary on the paper, but what you're getting out of it as an adult, as a grown up, like relearning, unlearning, relearning, is priceless, and it's never too late to do that.
And would you say that this program gives the parents, because like the thing is, like, these people are going and doing this with you, right, as families. Like, we focus a lot on the children, which is a huge aspect of that, because for you to be able, as an adult, be able to do the things you got to do, like the kids got to be taken care of, right? So for the parents themselves, are there any accommodations for their work-life balance, their approach, or is it very much focused on the kids?
Yeah, so there is a lot of base support that we're offering. So whatever location you'll be going into, there will be a co-working space that is offered and ready. So a productive space for the families to work from, open 24/7, because we have families coming from all over the world. So we have the day shifters and the night shifters always in our co-working spaces. Generally speaking, it's also an environment that where you can do your work, but you can also share. Like, there is a lot of knowledge sharing. You're talking about a cohort with like 20 to 30 families and people who are, many entrepreneurs, many freelancers, like big, like people with a lot of ideas and a lot of knowledge. So there's been startups founded on cohort with Boundless. So that's really cool to see also, like, people working together. We have think tanks that the families are also like spontaneously creating in every cohort, again, because there is this genuine interest in sharing and creating together. So I think it's quite a thriving community. So you get the basic work done, but you can also have a lot of connections and interesting exchanges that are happening when on a cohort. So that's quite cool, because it's not always easy to do when you have kids on the side.
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think it's funny too, because for someone that has traveled quite a bit with my family and we've kind of just homeschooled, we've known about the programs. We haven't dove in, but I think that community aspect is so important. It's one thing that was definitely missing for us. I was always, hey, what coffee shop can I go find? Where can I do meetups? So having that community, having those like-minded people around, I think is really critical for, kind of combating that scariness of, hey, am I ready as the adult? Like, what do I need to kind of create that normalcy? And I think what you guys are able to provide is that community engagement. Now, when I think of community, though, and I think when most people think of community, you're jumping into a geographical location that you've really never been. Are you guys able to do donate or do anything specific for those local communities that you guys are in? Like, what does that look like as far as incorporating that aspect into the day-to-day?
Like cultural integration, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Cultural integration, yeah, giving back. So there are some activities that Boundless is coordinating with local entities. Like, it depends on the location, but for instance, in Bali, where every cohort will have the families going into the mangrove and cleaning up. Like, we're very big on the UN SDG in the classroom, so we're teaching the kids on how to take care of the world around them. So we engage also the parents there. So we have a partnership with Rip Curl where we go like every cohort and clean up the mangrove. So that's happening, like, driven by Boundless. The families are also generally like super driven. In 3 months, you have a lot more time to immerse yourself in the local communities. So we've had families, for instance, getting together and supporting businesses. Like, there was this spa salon in Sanur as well that was very close to where the families were living. And they were like, this is just, you could do so much better. Like, the lady was so gifted. So they decided to come together. It's like, okay, so you're really good at content. You're really good at website. You're really good at designing brochures, etc. And they just like did a basically a business makeover. And now Sumi's salon has like the best ratings on Google. She has like her menu, like even there was someone in charge of interior design. So they redid and invested for her salon, and now it's just like the top-notch salon in around Sekuta, etc. And that same family has been super driven and doing something similar in Silos, I think just now in April, May, where there was a park that was left behind, no one was using it. They chatted with the local municipality. Are we able to clean up? And like they spend the whole day with all the families, and now it's a space that everyone can use, like the locals, and obviously the Boundless families joining as temporary locals. So it's a driven community, and I think the benefit of Boundless is through the local team who helps with the language, helps with the connections. Then it's kind of an accelerator where you're able to support also the locations and some of the locals.
That's great. Now, what I'd like to know, and I know we've talked briefly about it in the past, the growth that you guys have seen over the past 2 years has been pretty amazing. I guess my question now that we're, as a marketing agency, that we want to talk marketing. We want to know what you guys are doing, how you're growing, what kind of tactics, techniques, anything that you're leveraging to really enhance that growth. And, we always say to our clients, like, how do we grow smart, right? We don't want to just grow. We want to grow smart and hit goals and create attainable goals. So like, is there anything that you could give us as far as like what that growth has looked like and what you guys have done to get to that point? And then also, as we're looking into the future, what kind of tactics as far as marketing goes that you guys are working on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when I joined, we were 20 families, and now we're more than 700. We had 2,000 followers on Insta. Now we passed the 50. There's been like very, very nice numbers in terms of growth. We've done that with zero, like it's all been organic basically. Still a startup, so we're doing with the tools we have. There's been really like 3 core avenues for us. The first one is obviously word of mouth. Like Boundless is a program that is so unique, and when you get to like a product that is completely new, that is hitting a chord, and that is solid. So we keep on investing also on our product, having the right educators, the right local team. People just talk because it's such a unique experience. So word of mouth has been critical, and we've obviously have a referral program that has been helping us a lot, and also enabling the families to share as much as possible. The second one has been PR. Here again, it's a very unique story. We're surfing on 2 trends, right? We're surfing on the remote of work and the future of work, which is remote, and the future of education. And therefore, we're really able to attract and create a lot of lovely stories, especially because the families who are joining us have really interesting background. So they can really bring this story to life nicely. And then the last one has been also like realizing very quickly that our product was quite complex. It's a simple story on the paper, but trying to explain what you're living in 3 months is really difficult, because it's so multifaceted. So the content that we created at the beginning was very much like single faceted. It was like, pictures. It didn't work. Like we needed to move more towards video format, welcoming also influencers on site to see and experience it and tell the story. And that has been a life changer, because when we started being able to explain that story, tell the story of the Boundless Life through video content, that has really helped a lot of people to make sense of it. So those have been really the 3 key levers that we've been leveraging. Now there are a lot of things a lot of avenues that we have in mind, and now it's a question of like prioritizing which ones will be the most powerful for the future. We're starting to be a little bit clearer also on who is joining us and who is like the right fit for Boundless as well. And so that's helping for us to fine tune. But there are some group of families who haven't joined us yet, and we think would be great. So it's new geographies. It's also new job areas. We have a lot of people working in marketing and tech. But Web3, we haven't really yet tapped into so much. So that's like a huge area, right? Because our values are so aligned. So it's a question of having a few families who are an exact fit, and then that will start blowing up. And it's also starting to be a little bit more precise now on where our family is coming from. So we still have a lot of families coming from North America. We haven't really gone into the analysis by state, so that's what we need to start going into. We haven't done any paid at all, so at some point we'll start testing, obviously, and seeing how that goes. So there are a lot of avenues now that we can tap into.
Given that a lot of your your marketing efforts are organic, word of mouth, and not direct marketing efforts, I can imagine that, when we work with a client base where, we're focusing on the individual state or even just the US or North America specifically, like that geographic is not huge. And so a fairly large spend can, be, spent across that geographical area. When you talk about the world, right? Are you guys be able to focus on specific countries? Like when you do any sort of marketing effort, like are you saying, okay, we're only going to do, France, Germany, Spain, Canada, right? Or are you guys just saying like, hey, like we're just going to do organic for now, but if you ever get into paid, are you going to try to focus on a particular country?
That's a very good question. So the reality is that all the countries have very different laws and regulation when it comes to education and schooling, right? So that's something that we need to be very careful about. So some markets are a lot more open-minded, like the US and Canada, versus many of the European countries. So the European countries usually are joining us a lot more for the summer program. We have like shorter stays, 4 weeks, July, August, and then December. So that's much easier for Europe to join us at that point in time. So usually, like the markets still like US and Canada are the key areas. And then we've started also, because we have Bali as one location, tapping into like Australia, New Zealand, and then like Singapore area. So this is the other area, but always tied into, okay, what is the percentage of remote working population, one, and what is the law when it comes to alternative schooling? Because that's really what's driving the feasibility of that adventure as well.
I was going to say it makes a lot of sense. On our last travels, we're based in New Jersey, and the New Jersey laws for schooling it's very, which is interesting. It's more lax than a lot of other states. So yeah, to homeschool, Quinn, it was a lot easier to pull her out and, create a homeschool curriculum for her, where other states, it's a lot more regulation, red tape that you kind of have to abide by. So I think when you think about how to target specific markets and demographics, it's for you guys being very strategic in that sense, understanding who, what, where, and that location specifics is going to be so critical for your ad spend to go, when you are ready to spend the most.
Exactly. Now we should be ready next year. Like we're in now stage 3 of our WASC accreditation, which is the Western Association of School and Colleges. And then the world will be our oyster, which is super exciting, because once we'll start having that accreditation, then a lot more families will be able to join. So it's also laying down the ground towards that next big milestone. That will be really massive for Boundless.
Yeah. That sounds like that will alleviate yet another barrier for you guys. Kind of like what you said at the beginning, right? Like every little thing throughout the process, whatever makes it from A to Z, the fastest and easiest with the least amount of barriers will mean more success for you guys.
Exactly. Yes.
So I have a question. I know, personally, I found Boundless because of our children. Steve does not have kids, right? Do you have families
that was gonna be my question?
Oh, was it that are coming in, want to join the community, that want to experience what Boundless has, but they don't actually have children? Is that something that you guys are doing? Do you have families that have been there? Does it work? Does it not work?
Yeah, so that's a question we receive very, very often. We also had a lot, at some point, there was a lot of retired people who were interested also in joining the program. So we've had like, yeah, no children, or like, my children are too old, can I still join? We're still very young. So for the moment, we're focusing on like one like audience, which is families with kids, and we welcome kids from 1 to 14-year old. So we're starting to expand in terms of age groups, but unfortunately we're not welcoming yet families without kids. We still love you guys, but we just need to be as single-minded as possible in terms of efforts. The beauty of coming when you're a family, and like the beauty of being out there with like 20, 25 other family, is just priceless, because you connect on a different level. You're able to help each other. You co-parent, you help each other. When someone is sick, then someone else is there, and that's really what we're trying to foster. Now, who knows? Maybe in 10 years we'll have Boundless able to support many, many more people. Yeah.
Yeah, Steve, you can't go, right?
Or you need to have kids, like.
But I have some fantastic nieces and nephews.
There you go. That could be a way around it. Just adopt them and you're good to go.
Yeah, right.
So let's, if we can, I'd love to hear if you could tell us some challenges, right, that you guys are facing on a regular basis, things that are popping up, and then have you been able to solve them? Are you currently working through them? Do you not want to share them at all? Like, every business has problems, right? So,
Yeah, definitely. So many challenges. Where do I start? I think that's more the question. I think the first big one for us now, because we're really at an inflection point, like in terms of growth, is getting set up for the future. So we're still like managing Boundless, like, a year ago, and there is still a lot of manual work that's happening. So we're really working our way through towards like more systems, to really support the growth. I think that's one of the standard challenges when you're starting a new business. Now, the beauty of Boundless is that it doesn't exist. So there is no system that works exactly for us, because we're managing homes, co-working spaces, and more importantly, classrooms. So we need to build it from scratch, which is great because it's going to be perfect, but it does require a lot more work. So that's one of our like big like focus areas at the moment. The other one is also that as we're growing and we have more location, we're learning also on what makes a community so special. It's very, very important whenever we have like a cohort that also the families joining are in the right mindset, that the kids are also in the right mindset. It's quite like it's a microcosm, right? So this is one of the big areas that we've been working on in the last year. It's making sure also that our community is curated. So having more of a selection process also when you're joining in, just to make sure that everyone is in the right mindset when they're starting the program. Here again, we're the first ones in there, so there's been trial and error. I think we're getting now in a much better place in terms of knowing who we can welcome at this stage and who we cannot. But that's new processes for us to set up. So those have been like the two big ones at the moment, and then learning how to launch new locations. Like a new location is always a whole new world. It's new market dynamics. It's new people to hire, a different culture to run an operation. So it's quite a fascinating setup. It's not just replicating, right? So with every location, we're adjusting our playbook to launch new spaces. We're just launching Spain in 2 months. Or in September. Don't know when this will be released, but that will be in September. So that's an exciting one. And Couture that just launched in July, just now. So again, very different cultures between the Balkans and Spain. That's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for those differences in terms of culture and experiences. But when you're launching the business, it's a roller coaster for sure.
Yeah, I mean, launching a business in one location is difficult enough. I think, you know, exactly what you just said. You're basically, you have this playbook, but you have to customize it each and every time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really challenging. So to be able to see you guys put all of these places really in place in a pretty quick amount of time, it's really, really impressive to see what you guys are doing with the team that you guys have in the period of time that you've been able to do it. So we definitely applaud you for that. Excuse me.
I think it's what's possible also when people are fully driven by your mission. So as a business owner, being super clear on what is your mission, what are your values, and hiring accordingly. Like when people are joining Boundless, we never say it's gonna be a piece of cake, right? It's intense. Like we're building something completely new. We're looking for people who are hungry for making that change. They're really like, change makers. And everyone is like 100% aligned with the mission and the values. I've worked in many companies. I've never seen that. I've never seen people who are just so passionate about making a change. And that would be my biggest tip, is just being super clear on what you want to create and then bringing along people who are fully aligned to that.
Yeah, I think the kids play excuse me. I think the kids play a role in that, because when you introduce your children to something, you want it has to be successful. It has to be right. And you're going to do everything you possibly can to, do the best you can for your children. So I think it makes a lot of sense that the passion is there from the people that you guys have brought in. So it's really nice to hear. And like you said, it's just it's a very different kind of experience that I think not everyone has the ability to experience. Is there when you're,
I think,
oh, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say that like the experience piece is a big part of that. And my biggest question for this whole thing is language. So given that, you're throughout the entire world, is there a huge language barrier for anybody who participates in this? For the people who work with you, is there a language barrier there? And do the children have an opportunity to absorb a new language? And because like traditionally the US, honestly, we're terrible. Like we know one language for the most part, and we know a smattering of little other languages here and there. But for like the rest of the world, it seems like being bilingual or multilingual is just second nature. So is language a huge? And you are obviously multilingual, right? So like for you guys, does language play a huge part in both the the edification for the people who are part of the system and for the overall makeup of the company?
So in general, our biggest strategy when we're coming into a new place is just to make sure that we have the locals. So our team is obviously fully bilingual, but anyone who is working on location needs to be from that location. So it's really critical because we're building deep connection with the local communities. We're impacting those local communities, and we want to be respectful also of those local spaces. Now, for the families coming on board, the education program is fully in English, so the kids can still keep on learning seamlessly. We want to really reduce the disruption for the kids when they're traveling. They do get exposed to the local language when they join the 3 months program. It's, I would say, more of a sprinkling of the language in the sense that they will learn the basics, to say hello, to say thank you, to order ice creams. So it will get them, we're focusing on the basics when we're at the education center. But definitely, like what I've learned, being French and then learning German and English and then Swedish for my partner, there needs to be a motivation. And so what we're doing is we're teaching the kids that when you're in another country, and if you learn already a few words, that will get you a long way. Because just showing that you're making that effort, that you want to connect with the locals, suddenly their reactions and their smile and their openness will be completely different. That's what the kids are learning. It's about connecting with the others and with other cultures. But generally speaking, it's quite an easy way into a new country just because the local team is from there, but speak English and is able to then just help you whenever there are little hiccups or misunderstandings with the locals.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely embarrassing as an American traveling the world and seeing people speak 3, 4, 5 different languages, and I can barely speak anything besides English. So, and I'm pretty well traveled, and I'll say as an American traveling, we are very fortunate that everyone has has done a good job of learning English. I don't know why they've chosen, but I'm happy they have, because we can get by. It doesn't matter if we're in Mexico or Spain or Bali or Thailand, right? Like, everyone speaks some English, and it's very impressive for someone from the U.S. that just we don't get taught it the way that I think it's taught everywhere else in the world. So it's interesting to see how language, for me personally, like in a program like yours, where it is, worldwide, like how it could play a role, and especially be very attractive for a US family, because it is something that, I want my daughters to be able to speak other languages. I think it's important to be able to communicate on a different level. And I know our educational system here, they don't provide that. And so it would be interesting to see, like, how they can do more of that kind of development within your program, because it is important, I think.
Especially like we've known, and many studies have shown that even if you're not bilingual, just the learning process of learning a different language really also expands your neurological abilities in the future. So it's not only just about being fluent, it's also about unlocking areas of your brains that suddenly will be really, really useful in the future. And it's being, it's being excited and proud also of having lived and connected with these other cultures. Like, I remember being in an airport, and then the girls were like, "Oh, terima kasih," like that's how you say thank you in Balinese. And then suddenly it goes back to like this whole world that they created in Bali and all those beautiful memories. Like, language learning also connects to the memories that you create during those travels, which are, I think, a big aspect of also what we're building for those children. It's children who have learned to live around the world, and yeah, the world is their country. Like, I'm from the planet, I'm from the earth. It goes back to this.
I love that.
And the aspect of kids being this whole conversation being very kid centric, what the way we like to wrap up our podcast is to ask our guests, as a child, in knowing who you are in 2024, would you think you'd be doing now what you are doing now back when you were 12 years old, 10 years old? Like, did you ever think this was the future for you?
That's a great question. So I thought, first of all, I thought I would be an ethnologist. I did travel a lot with my parents, but during the summer, they were educators. And so I was fascinated by different cultures. So I thought I would be an ethnologist, so I would study different cultures, which is kind of what I'm doing, but not really. There is something to it. And then I always knew that that my partner would not be from France. Like, I wanted to have, I wanted to raise a family from different countries and my kids to be multicultural. So that was always part of it. Now, I couldn't have imagined, and even in the best world, that Boundless could have existed. Back then, it was completely crazy to imagine that your kids could hop around from one school to another and live across multiple countries. So that was definitely insane. But I think I would have been super excited to have joined Boundless School if I had been 10 or 12. Yes, for sure. So yeah, there was something. It was something that was leading me to it, for sure.
That's awesome. Well, honestly, it's great to see you again. We're excited to, again, continue to watch Boundless grow. As far as kind of plugging Boundless now, where can people find you? Where can people find more information if they are interested in, connecting with you or Boundless, as a whole?
Yeah. For sure. So, if you're interested in like talking to one of us or one of the Boundless people in the team, the Boundless.life website is your go-to, and you can just schedule a call with us, and we're then able to guide you depending on your specific needs. I also encourage you to follow us on our Boundless Life page on Instagram. There is a lot that is posted about what's happening now across all 5 locations, and there is a lot. It's the summer, so people are enjoying it to the max. So that will be your great, I think, a great resource. And we have a super cool Facebook group also that is like just not monitored by us, but it's a spontaneous group called the Boundless Life Families. There is over 900 people in that group. So then you can ask all the questions that you want to people who have done already the program. If you want to have like the unfiltered truth about the Boundless experience.
That's awesome.
Wonderful. Well, thanks a lot for having me over. It was a pleasure to share a little bit more, to meet you, Steve, and to catch up, Max. Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. No, it's been a pleasure. We're super excited for you guys and the future of Boundless. And I just want to thank everyone for tuning in to this episode. And until next time, I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks so much for listening. Feel free to reach out to us for all things marketing at attentiontrading.com.